Hello, mentors. Welcome to our podcast series, Mentorships in Education, brought to you by Just Education at justeducationfirst.com. I am your host, Judith Epstein. I am very excited about the wide range of experts who have volunteered to give up their time and expertise. They will share their innovative ideas, their exciting perspectives, their rich resources, and their research with us. Please continue to delve into these topics on their websites and with your legal counsel, healthcare provider, and education professional. Our guests will have information that will be relevant to mentors supporting struggling students, parents, teachers, administrators, legal support, and health professionals. We will address all levels of education with issues that affect academic performance. Our goal is to open discussions and introduce a variety of approaches to those searching for information in a free venue. So mentors, let me introduce our guests for today.
Hello, mentors. Welcome to the podcast, Mentorships in Education, brought to you by Just Education at justeducationfirst.com. I hope you'll visit our website or look over our other episodes on YouTube or other social media, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and kind of peruse our guests and look at our topics. If you are working in any capacity with struggling students, I'm sure you'll find a topic that will be of interest to you. Today, I want to welcome our special guest, Robin Tenboer. Welcome, Robin. Thank you so much for giving us your time to do this podcast. Very much appreciate your being with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you having me on.
I want to tell everyone a little bit about you. You have an interesting background. Robin is only 36 years old, and she's the mother of 3 special needs children. One who is 11, one who is about 10, and one who is 8, 2 boys with a girl in the middle. They've been diagnosed with a variety of challenges from ADHD, ODD, anxiety, depression, sensory processing disorders. Her youngest has autism and some anxiety issues along with ADHD. I'm sure she'll talk about this more as we get into it. She's been married to her childhood sweetheart for over 17 years and actually had a very good job in geospatial technologies with a degree that she got from college. And with all of the issues her children have had, she has decided to leave that great job and start a company to provide some support structures for kids who are challenged in school. Robin found that there was a need, and we're going to find out a little bit more now. Her company has become so popular, the Little Reds Sewing Company, that she is in 5 different countries. I will just mention kind of tangentially, because Robin mentioned it to me, and I'm sure she won't mind if I say this, that her husband was very supportive of her leaving her job and trying to start this company. She was not a sewer by trade. She learned how to do this along the way. And her husband supported it because he was thrilled that she would be helping people. He had some reservations in some other areas, and we can talk about those as we get into our conversation a little bit more. But Robin, thank you again for being with us. I think probably a good place to start would be for you to talk a little bit about your inspiration in this business. What made you realize that there was a need for some of these products that you're making, knowing that your children have the struggles, but what made you aware that there was this gap that you needed to fill? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, ma'am. When older two, Marshall and Kinsley, were diagnosed with ADHD and sensory processing disorders. I had looked at some of the products on the market, and they really were not a fit with the things that they needed. And so they were really texture oriented. My daughter really put stuff in her mouth a lot. And so I wanted to, and they like to touch everything. So I kind of wanted to keep their hands in their lap away from other things. They wanted to touch their neighbors. They would get in trouble with touching friends and picking up stuff that they necessarily didn't need to pick up. So we came up with our first product, the Fidget Pillow. And so our hand sewed the first ones. So it was a challenge to come up with the first ones, but it was really rewarding, and it really helped them in the beginning.
And you were still working at the time when you did this, or did your leaving work become a decision because your business began to grow so much? How did that transition take place?
I had already started to work towards leaving because of the issues that they had started having when they were younger. My oldest son also had a lot of health issues besides the ADHD and sensory processing. And so because I was able to come up with the products to help not only him and her, but other children as well, it allowed me to step out of the workforce and into this business to be able to help other children as well.
So how many countries are you in now?
We are in 5 different countries.
5 countries. Can you tell us what countries you're in?
We have products in the U.S., Canada, Norway, Australia, and Africa. And then I'm also working with a orphanage in Africa to get them an entire set of sensory products for their children as well right now. And I'm working with a lady in Australia to start sewing our products over there, because it's from the US to Australia, it's extremely expensive to ship weighted products. So she's going to start sewing there and to sell in Australia.
Wow, that is so exciting. It is. It must be very satisfying to realize that your products are making such a difference in children's lives, that people are seeking you out and wanting to create them faster than you can, do that on your own.
Absolutely. Yes, it's been a blessing. It really has. Getting to see these kids especially like the Fidget Pillow, getting to watch the kids when I hand them to them, because I've gotten to physically hand a bunch of them to these children, and when they sit there and discover all the textures and they feel the weight and they start fidgeting with the buttons or the zippers or the ribbons, and their face lights up and they're so excited, and they're made specifically for them. They get to pick their colors or their patterns. We have different patterns that they get to choose from. And so they get to have something of their own. It's not something that they just go pick up off of a store shelf. It's for them. And so they're really excited.
Robin, do any of the teachers ever complain that these are a distraction to the kids in the classroom, that they're not paying attention to what they should be doing because they're busy with these, with these items that they're bringing into school?
I haven't had that type of feedback, really. In fact, I've had several teachers actually order them for their classrooms.
Wow, that's awesome. Who was your first client who took a chance with you?
It was actually Central Elementary in Stephenville. They were my children's school. I took the first hand-sewed ones to them, and the counselor loved them so much that she ordered 6. And so at that point is when I decided that I would get a sewing machine and learn how to machine sew, because it took 8 hours each to hand sew.
Did you like do YouTube videos to learn how to sew, or was it just trial and error on your own? I mean, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, so sewing with a sewing machine would almost be a dangerous tool for me.
I understand. Yeah, it was a lot of trial and error. A lot of trial and error. I messed up a lot in the very beginning, and some of our very first fidgets look a whole lot different than our ones now. And so we've grown and learned a lot over the last few years.
How many products do you make during the course of a year? If you were to, line them all up, the different categories, how many things are you producing during the course of a year?
Right now we're probably in the hundreds.
In the hundreds.
Yeah, we're small right now.
Are you looking for people to help come in and help you sew some of these things?
Eventually, I would like to be able to grow it. I wouldn't mind, honestly, turning it into a nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, there are a lot of families that cannot afford sensory items. Having children with disabilities is a very expensive life. You have doctor's appointments, you have all kinds of things, and a lot of times insurance will not cover tools like this. And so I wouldn't mind eventually turning at least a portion of the company into a nonprofit to be able to help assist families who could not afford the sensory products to help their children in school. Because if we can help these kids build a foundation and have confidence in their education to where they continue their education, it helps the community as a whole. And so I think that would be very beneficial.
That sounds very altruistic. It does. And with your challenges that you have at home, that you want to do this for other children, I feel, is one of the reasons you're on, because I think that it's such a nice thing that you're doing, and I want to make sure that everybody knows about it. Where did you get the name for your company, Little Red's Sewing Company?
My daughter's a redhead, and we were trying to figure out what we should do, and since we came up with the products because of my kids, she became our little mascot.
Oh, that's cute. She must just be like a peacock when so proud of the fact that she's the kind of the focus of this endeavor, that she's a part of it. Does she ever refer to that?
Yes, and she will tell everybody.
So tell us, do you mind sharing a little bit about your children and their challenges? I don't want you to give away any, private information, but perhaps some of the things that you're working with might resonate with some of our listeners.
Not a problem at all. My oldest, he's 11. He has ADHD, sensory processing, oppositional defiance, anxiety, depression. His biggest challenges is he gets overwhelmed and then he will shut down, and trying to pull him back out of that is really hard. And sometimes the teachers will try to pull him out of it and pull him out of it, and it'll take 45 minutes to an hour of them just trying to work with him. He'll break down, cry, call us, we'll talk to him, and then he'll do his work in like 5 minutes. And then, so that one.
What are some of the supports that you have made that you feel help him at school?
He does really good with the fidget bracelets, especially like with his anxiety. He'll start rolling the beads on the bracelet when he starts getting anxious, or the buddies. He'll pull them out of his pocket and he'll start rolling the beads on the arms or the legs.
Okay. All right.
Also, at school, he'll get like extra time on his schoolwork, or he gets to go to content mastery. Things that pull him out of the main classroom, to where he gets overwhelmed with all the other students and gets distracted very easily.
Now, what about your daughter? What is she what are her diagnoses, and what are some of the supports you use that you make for her?
She has severe ADHD and sensory processing. She's borderline autistic. She has a lot of the autism characteristics, just wasn't quite severe enough to get the full diagnosis. She uses the Fidget Pillow. She also uses, she has a bracelet. Sometimes she has the buddy if she remembers it, but she will also get extra time in class. If she needs it, she can go out of class into the hall if she gets overwhelmed. And so we've been very fortunate with the school district here. They work with us really, really well.
Yeah, I want to talk about that in a minute, but what about your 8-year-old? What is his diagnosis, and what are some of the things that you make that are supportive of him in school?
His diagnosis is ADHD, autism level 1, and anxiety. He uses our Fidget Pillow a lot. He takes it from class to class every day. He also, I actually designed the desk buddy specifically for him to start using for next year. And so it sits on the desk where it holds the paper, and it sits on the desk where they can fidget with one hand and write with the other.
Oh, that sounds interesting. Do you have a picture of that?
I can send it to you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, maybe we can put that on the website so people can see what some of these things look like. If you have some pictures of some of these things, I didn't think of that before, but that might be helpful for them to visualize. So tell us a little bit about, you said your school has been very supportive of your children. That is not the case for many parents. They struggle to get the environment in school, to create the environment in school that their kids need in order to be successful. When I was talking to a friend, I emailed you, Robin, so I kind of gave you the heads up. I hope you saw the email. One of my friends said to me, "Oh, you've got to ask her, what tips does she have for some of us, when we go into school and we talk to the administration and the teachers about creating some supports, maybe changing the structure of the schedule, or even allowing some of these creations you're making into the classroom. Do you have any tips? Have you run into any challenges when you've been talking to teachers or administration on any of these issues?
Some. I tell parents, be willing to be an advocate for your child. There are going to be some schools that will fight you tooth and nail on everything. I'm not going to lie on that because I've ran into it. I worked with an organization that was the Parent Training and Information Center for Special Education for a year, and there are schools that honestly, no matter what you do, will fight you tooth and nail, no matter what the rules stay, and which is very sad because that doesn't help the children. It doesn't help the future generation or anything. But also, I tell parents that you need to be willing to listen to what the teachers, their concerns are, because they are with that child all day. And a lot of times your kids act totally different when they're with a teacher than they do at home. Your little angel at home may not be necessarily a little angel for their teacher. And
isn't that the truth?
And they may have some behaviors at school, and maybe talk to the school about popping in if the child has a behavior issue in a particular class period. Well, maybe go in and sit in on that class period, or maybe volunteer to be an aide or something if they need an additional aide for the school, and you have a poor district that can't necessarily afford to hire an additional aide, or
even if you were to just come in for one event that they needed someone for, if they were having a party, a holiday party, or if they were preparing to do a presentation in the auditorium. What you're saying, I like the idea, but if you can't go and be an aide over a long period of time, you might just volunteer to be a support staff for that one particular event. That might give you an opportunity to see what's going on in the school too.
Right. Be active as you can be in your child's education. I know with a lot of working parents, it's not feasible for them to, but I mean, call up the teacher and talk to them. Hey, how was Johnny doing today? Did you have any concerns with any behaviors today? Is there anything I could talk to them about? Or was he good? Did he do something that I could praise him about or praise her about? Things like that y'all can work together in a cohesive ability to make it as the best environment as possible for the child and the teacher. I know sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes you're not going to connect with the teacher or the parent at all, but just working with them and let the teacher know that you're just a phone call away, or you're open to suggestions, or you're open and available. It makes it easier on them and makes it less stressful on them, because they're not scared to come to you, and they're not going to be afraid to come to you if something's going on.
Robin, did you have any resistance at all at the beginning? Any teachers or staff a little negative about maybe letting some of these supports in the classroom? Teachers that might have felt it might be a distraction to the other students? Or was everybody in your school very excited about it right from the start? No naysayers, nobody who was who kind of wanted to wait and see what would happen.
The only resistance really we had in the very beginning was how we weighted the products. We weighted them with pea gravel, because you can get a heavier weight in a smaller area. But we weighted them before with small river stones, and they were afraid a kid would like smack another kid upside the head. But I researched and changed, and then because like the weighted poly pellets, in order to get the same amount, not only is it expensive, and I wanted to keep the cost low for everyone, you have to put a larger amount, have to be a larger area to get the same amount of weight. But the pea gravel gives it a texture, and it feels almost like a beanbag type weight in there as well, and it moves a little bit.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was visualizing when you were talking about those pea stones. It's almost like a beanbag. And
so that was our main resistance in the beginning. Other than that, once teachers actually got it in their hands, they were very open to having them in their classrooms.
Okay, so were either your kids, your own children, a little embarrassed bringing these into school? I think you mentioned to me your husband had some concerns about your children bringing these into school. What were those concerns on both ends, and how did you address them?
The kids weren't so much, but my husband was worried that as they got older, in the older grades, that they might have a little bit of kickback from the other kids. But I really haven't gotten that from other parents.
That's interesting. So your children were not uncomfortable bringing the fidget pillow, for example, into school first time, when none of the other kids had seen it. They were comfortable. They didn't feel different in bringing those in. Actually, I could say, did the other kids kind of want one too? That might have been a response.
Yes, I ended up making several for kids in their class after they brought the first ones in.
Yeah, kids who maybe didn't have a diagnosis, but who just, it supported them in some mild way.
Yes.
But it's really cool.
And as they get in high school, they're more like they use more of like the bracelets and the buddies and things like that aren't as conspicuous. Unless they're in like the special education classes,
right?
And a lot of times they use the fidget pillows and things like that. There have been a couple of kids that have still used the fidget pillow on into high school and have had no issues with it at all.
So how many different products do you produce at this point?
We have the fidget buddies, the fidget bracelets, the fidget sticks, the desk buddies, the fidget pillows. We have a fidget pad and a fidget quilt. And then we are working on a fidget for your feet that will go underneath the desk or underneath the chair.
That's what's in development now?
Yes.
And do you make all of these yourself?
Yes, me and my mother-in-law make them. And then we have one other lady that every once in a while will help sew some of the marble mazes.
Uh-huh. Where did these ideas come from? Like, where did you get the idea that, we need to do something for under the desk? Where did that idea come from? Was that like, an epiphany you had, or did some teacher say to you, oh, you've got to do this for us? We've got kids who could really use something for under the desk.
Just hearing different struggles that kids have from either parents or teachers. And we just start looking at thinking of different ways that we could help with that struggle.
What are some of the comments you've heard from teachers and parents once their children have access to these? What kind of feedback are they giving you about them?
A lot of times they tell us it's like night and day. The kids, they're able to sit down. They're not touching everything. They're able to, like the carpet time, they're able to sit down and listen to the teacher when they're reading stories or teaching at the board. And so they're learning, and it's exciting because then the kids get excited because they're actually able to listen, and they're finally able to focus on what the teachers are telling them.
So if someone orders these from you, and we'll talk about your website. We're going to have your website link on the podcast, so people will know how to contact you. They can ask you about any questions, maybe recommendations that you might have as to which one of these products would be the best for their child. If I encourage our listeners to share with you a little bit about their child so that you can give some guidance to them as to what product might be best for them to try initially. But what is it that that you ask parents specifically about when a parent is reaching out to you and says, oh, you have these products, I don't know which one my child might benefit from? Is there particular information that you feel is helpful for you in guiding them toward one product or another?
We talk about their diagnosis, their age, if like weighted products help calm them, if they like textures, things like that. If those really help me figure out what products to help them with, and then we go from there on designing which one best will fit them. And then we pick out their colors and what designs that they like.
So these are pretty much, as you said, these are pretty much individual creations. The structure of a fidget pillow, for example, is the same for each child, but one may have one color, one may have another color. Do you ever alter the kinds of beads that you have on it, or the buttons that you have on it, or whatever it is on there? Do you customize it in that way?
Yes. I
Really?
usually do it based on whatever fabric we choose, or the child, and also if they have like a fabric aversion. If they don't, some kids don't like softer fabrics. Some kids don't like the scratchier fabrics. There's been kids that don't like certain colors, and so we really do customize everything based on that child.
That's awesome. That's really great. And do you pack all these up yourself and ship them out?
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. That's quite an enterprise for a one-man team here. You're pretty busy during the course of the day.
Yes, ma'am.
Robin, thank you so much for being with us. Are there any last words you'd like to share with parents or teachers or other people who are working with students? I don't want to say words of wisdom, but any points that we haven't brought up that you think are important for parents and teachers to remember when working with these products in their environment, whether a child brings them in for a therapy session, or whether they need them in the classroom, or whether a child uses them in a special alternative class that they're in. Are there any concerns that you have repeatedly discussed with teachers that you feel might be supportive of helping teachers in working with these products in their environment?
Just in the beginning, the kids may, like with the fidget pillow, they may need help with learning all the textures, or just patience with the kids.
Patience is probably the key word here, Robin. We're all learning, and if teachers and therapists and administrators and guidance counselors have patience and listen to what the kids have to say, then we're going to be able to and believe what they have to say, not invalidate what they have to say. Then we'll be able to help them use these products in a way that's most productive for them.
Yes.
I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Robin. I so much appreciate your being with us today. Mentors, I hope you will go to our Mentorships in Education podcast by Judith Epstein. If you Google those, you will come up with different resources for them and a long list of guests and topics that I hope you will find something that will help give you a foundation of information for some questions that you may have. Please keep connected. Please keep your suggestions coming in. Some of the guests that we have had have been the result of your recommendations. Stay safe, be well, and thank you.
Thank you, mentors, for being with us today. If you found this podcast of value, please visit justeducationfirst.com to subscribe to our blog and Mentorship and Education podcast so that you may continue the exploration with us. Our goal is to provide a free treasury of information for our listeners so they can become acquainted with the amazing resources that we have available to us. We want to thank all of our guests for giving their time and sharing their wealth of information with us. Please also visit their websites and explore more of their resources to further your pursuit of the topic. Hope to hear from you at justeducationfirst.com. Have a good week, and thank you.